Life Audio.
If I can't have a difference or a curious question that explores the subject without that being upsetting to you, then I honor you and us best by asking that either be a subject that we avoid or that there is the opportunity to hit pause on a conversation if it begins to go that way. And if the other person can't see that as you valuing the relationship, then they value that subject more than they value the relationship, and that's a warning sign.
Welcome to the Faith Over Fear podcast, where we discuss powerful truths to calm anxiety and fear, big and small. I'm Jennifer Slattery, and today we're continuing our series, Relational Peace, Loving Others Without Losing Yourself, with a discussion on a crucial but often confusing element necessary for any healthy relationship: boundaries, which basically means defining where we end and someone else begins. Most, if not all of us, have certain relationships that leave us on edge, anxious, emotionally exhausted, or unsettled. And often those tensions involve the very people with whom we most long to build healthy, fulfilling, and emotionally safe connections. Those situations can feel incredibly confusing. We might recognize that we need to set healthy boundaries, but not know what that looks like for us personally. Or maybe we recognize this is something we need to do, but we don't know how. Or we fear we don't have the courage to speak hard truths. In this episode, I've invited pastor, author, and trauma-informed biblical counselor Brad Hambrick to discuss boundaries, what they are, what they aren't, why establishing them can feel so difficult, and biblical principles that can help us gain courage and clarity once we've prayerfully determined what we will and what we won't tolerate. Join us.
It is my pleasure. I appreciate the invitation.
Brad serves as the pastor of counseling at the Summit Church in Durham, North Carolina. He also serves as an assistant professor of biblical counseling at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. He's a council member of the Biblical Counseling Coalition, and he's authored several books, including Angry with God, An Honest Journey Through Suffering and Betrayal. We probably need to have you on to talk about that one. And he served as general editor for the Becoming a Church That Cares Well for the Abused, churchcares.com project. You've also got several podcasts, correct?
I have a lot of resources on my website that are audio in nature. And so, if anybody's interested in those, all of that's at bradhambrick.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. I'm curious. I know as a biblical counselor, you've got a lot of really important relationships, and you've got your family. And as a pastor as well, you've got a lot of important relationships, I'm sure, with people who are hurting and looking for support. So how do you navigate all of that in a healthy way?
Yeah, I think the person who often gives me the most trouble is me. And oftentimes when we think about boundaries and that type of thing, we think of those outside of us. But sometimes the person who has the most unfair expectations for me is me. I can easily have 200 to 250 hours worth of good stuff that I think I ought to get done within this 168-hour week and be really relentless with myself if I can't get it all done. And then I think about the number of people who I would love to be able to be helpful with in that conversation of, can I just have 5 minutes? And it's not that I'm too busy. Like, I really don't think it's like I'm such an important person, I don't want to have the conversation, but I'm finite. And if somebody entrusts me with their story and then they'll want to continue that, like, we are people with limits, and that's folks who are very sincere. Then you have folks who may be malicious in their intent, and it's like, am I wise enough and am I always right enough to know the difference? This is where, even thinking about that, I feel the angst of our subject, because boundaries can mean so many different things that it's like, am I even using the word right?
Yeah, which is why we need to have this conversation. And I particularly appreciate you mentioning capacity, because I think that's something a lot of times we don't consider, and maybe we're trained Whether verbally or non-verbally, growing up in religious context, we can be trained to think we shouldn't have capacity. One challenge that can make setting boundaries so hard, I'm assuming for you, and I know for a lot of listeners, if you're really high in compassion, it makes it exponentially more confusing and difficult. Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. God is infinite. I am finite. I see far more needs on a day-to-day basis. And if I'm just nice and compassionate and curious, I ask questions, people start to share, I'm going to hear more burden than there are hours in my week to resolve. And so then I start getting all crunchy, like I just need to stop asking people questions and showing interest because I can. And yeah, you can really tie yourself in knots because you feel like if I hear a need, I ought to be able to be the one who can meet and fulfill that need. And giving ourselves permission to say every need may not have my name on it is an important point of freedom that we need to be able to embrace.
Yeah, I'm thinking